Dahil ni programa na mong sokpa parang sokpay nga, sokparoroy nga, anting ni Honorable Chief Minister Sir, aro ni family ba da ore ba ha? Hay anting janma wa mangko jakpatok ke ramchak sotay na, jakpatok karang chung pujay nga. So here we have for you our speaker for today's lecture, Shri Shekhar Gupta sir, arriving to the venue. Anting ni sekarang ni dakpebal geta una pandra aro bibalang ko ya biapuna ramchak swenga. We still await some of the dignitaries. Kindly bear with us. Something awaits you every single day. All you need to do is recognize it, seize it, and make the most of it. Today is one such day, and I hope everyone gathered here will make the most of what today's special event will bring us as each moment unfolds, as the day progresses. A pleasant day, everyone. I, on behalf of the Northeastern Hill University Tura campus and the PA Sangma Foundation, welcome you all to the 7th PA Sangma lecture as we mark the 76th birth anniversary of late PA Sangma and celebrate his life and legacy. Late PA Sangma was a man who lived for others and stood up for the minorities and raised concern for their welfare. He had continuously guided young leaders and is largely remembered and acknowledged for his role as the Speaker of the Lok Sabha. His political life commenced as a worker of the Congress, and his rise from that stature has truly been phenomenal. And so he brought our very small northeastern state to the larger political arena. Commemorating this day, we will be highlighting the basic feature about what politicians can teach us about leadership and management. In doing so, one can never ignore the magnitude of impact late PA Sangma had on the lives of his own children and the common people and the leaders who lead us in the present day through his ways. And as we continue to move on, year after year, without his presence, the knowledge and teachings that he accumulated during his long political reign that he passed on to those who longed for it shall ever walk with them through and through. He still lives through his words, and his memories will live on. So let us embark on this wonderful opportunity to devote this day to knowing more about the life of late PA Sangma Sir, who had a monumental share in leading our abode of clouds, Meghalaya, to the forefront of the major political scenario. The speaker for today's lecture will be sharing his valuable experiences with our humble gathering. They say, music has the power to change the world, for it is the universal language that we all understand and that which unites us all in a single melodious bond. Since we are here to mark the birth anniversary of late PA Sangma, we will be listening to one of his most favorite songs, O Ang Aman A Song, an original composition by Beston D. Moman, a song about the scenic beauty of our very own Garo Hills, presented to this venue by a well-established group of young musicians who united solely for their love for good music. They have performed in several music festivals and functions in and around our state of Meghalaya, but there is no stopping them from going beyond. They have recently performed in New Delhi, and their future in this musical career is evidently promising, for they will be playing alongside some international bands in the coming days as well. Daal salni nambe pabako, late PA Sangma ko giskodo ne, nokpante dolni rabaingapa, o ang amana songit ko denmark nangna. Ladies and gentlemen, presenting the band Nokpante and their version of O Ang Aman A Song. Nambigpa na tubigpa ng mesokanina nasong ko Janmani Palomatella Nokpante. Thank the very talented group of musicians touching our souls with that soulful rendition. We all enjoyed your performance, and I, on behalf of everyone present here, extend my heartfelt appreciation to each one of your band members for presenting us your special performance with that sentimental attachment that clearly showed the amount of respect you put through your presentation on this special occasion. Thank you once again, Nokpante. A huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for these talented musicians. A biopic on late P.A. Sangma sir will now be presented to you. Let us look back on some of his wonderful memories created by this great leader, captured over the years in his own words, compilations about his life and politics and his ideals from his past interviews, presenting a biopic on late P.A. Sangma. Batanggaman sal somayrong late P.A. Sangma sani agan gerkanirang ko tpir arakaman ko anting dao kandake tarya ko niyang skana uni katarang ko uni ku aganachi knang taina.
From the remote hills of Garo Hills, Chapahati, emerged a tall leader of Northeast, Purno A. Sangma.
Given my background, after the demise of my father, I was a school dropout. So I thought that my life will end in Chapahati village itself. But God was very kind that the Christian missionaries picked me up, gave me education. And today what I am is because of them.
A man of unyielding conviction, he held fast to his beliefs, never swayed by compromise or favor. A testament to his unshakable character.
Principle-wise, I have never sacrificed. I have never gone against my principle. You know, I always stuck to my principle. Whatever I believe, I believe. I don't go beyond that. What is right is right. What is wrong is wrong. I don't compromise. You know, as a minister, never. Even as a speaker, I never compromised. Never. No concession to anybody, no favor to anybody. Then you have a peace of mind. What is ultimately important is your conscience.
Sangma's footsteps traced a path from the quaint town of Garo Hills to the very heart of power.
When I became cabinet minister and the media asked me, how do you feel? I said, I feel very proud that I am the first tribal to be a cabinet minister in this country.
A visionary who dared to dream beyond himself. Sangma's aspirations reached far and wide. He aimed to be the resolute voice for tribals, minorities, and the marginalized.
Not seeking for a post or for a position. I have never left a political party because I wanted that position and I did not get it. I left Congress on a particular principle which the country knows.
Right.
The whole world knows about it.
Yes.
I left BJP, NCP for the same principle. You see?
Yes.
Once the matter was a closed chapter, well, I thought, I represent everybody. I have worked for everybody. I have worked for India. In the process, perhaps, I have not been able to do justice to tribals. I have not been able to do justice to northeastern states. And above all, I could not do justice to my own state, Meghalaya. That is the reason, after having elected to parliament for 9 times, I left. I could have been elected another 2, 3, 4 times, but I left and went to my state politics so that I am able to contribute something substantial for the development of the state.
Amidst the pages of history, Sangma championed the cause of democracy.
As far as India is concerned, our country is concerned, the only system that can work is the parliamentary democracy. I'm convinced of that. Having said so, whether the parliamentary democracy has succeeded in India, I would say yes. This is the year of the 50th year of independence. We have had 11 general elections, and we have proved to be a mature democracy.
By contesting the presidential election in 2012, he demonstrated that the leadership should be open to all, regardless of their background.
They say, Sangma ji, आप ऐसा चीज कल बताओ जहाँ से headlines मिलेगा, हाँ? So we can headlines. So in that meeting, I said, if Obama can become the president of the United States of America, where it is meant only for the white people, that is why presidential residence and office is not going to White House. And today a black man is sitting in the White House. Why can't in India a tribal can think of becoming the president or prime minister of India?
Proudly embracing the mantle of tribal identity, Sangma illuminated the Northeast with the torch of pride. His insight into the region's struggles, rooted in both tribal sentiment and economic concerns, reflected his deep understanding.
The British even allowed the tribals in the Northeast to, remain as they were, without even going into their culture and all kind of things. Therefore, people in the Northeast have that kind of a pride that we have not even been under the British rule. And therefore, when India became independent, then the Nagas didn't want to join India. The Manipuris didn't want to join India. It is not a question of being anti-India. I don't think the majority of the people are today anti-India. They very much realize that they are and they have to be part of India. There is no doubt about that.
The tale of P.A. Sangma unfolds. A journey of values, heritage, and an unbreakable spirit. From the remote Meghalaya to the corridors of power, his legacy lives on. Join us in celebrating the life and legacy of P.A. Sangma, a testament to the potential within us all.
Let us continue to celebrate the ever-undying dedication and the services rendered during his political career. His words live on because his legacy lives on. Uni agangaman katarangchi, uni skidapanirangchi, uko anteng pange rakyang kuna sakantikon matella. May I now call on the Professor P.S. Shukla Sir, Vice Chancellor, Northeastern Hill University, to deliver the welcome address.
Pringnam Sankankon Rimchakso Suprabhatam. I, on behalf of the Northeastern Hill University, take the privilege to welcome the Honorable Chief Minister of Meghalaya, Sri Konark K. Sangma ji, and his wife, Dr. Mehtab A. Sangma. Also would like to welcome Sri Thomas A. Sangma, Honorable Speaker of Meghalaya Legislative Assembly, and his wife, Mrs. Ilaji Momin. all the respected ministers, Government of Meghalaya, most respected Srimati Choradini K. Sangma, wife of late Sri P.A. Sangma. Also would like to welcome Srimati Agatha K. Sangma, Honorable Member of Parliament Lok Sabha, and her husband Dr. Patrick R. Marak. Sri James K. Sangma, Chairman of the Meghalaya Industries Development Corporation, and his family welcome you, sir, in this conference hall. All the members of the Meghalaya Legislative Assembly present today, Chairman, GHADC, MDCs, and executive members, and today's memorial speaker, Padam Babhushan, Sri Shekhar Gupta ji, founder and the editor-in-chief of the print. A very warm welcome to the 7th P.A. Sangma Memorial Lecture hosted by Nehu, Tura Campus and P.A. Sangma Foundation. I also take this opportunity to welcome the Deputy Commissioner, West Garo Hills, the Superintendent of Police, Tura, various officials from BSF, the member of the Senior Citizen Forum, NACMA Council, NGOs, representative, religious leaders, MBOSE officers, principal of various colleges and schools, including their faculty members, vice chancellor, directors, dean of the university, institutes and colleges of the community science. Former Pro-Vice Chancellor of the Nehu, Tura Campus, Campus in charge Nehu, Tura Campus, faculty member and staff member of the Nehu, Tura Campus. Dear students, media, ladies and gentlemen, again, good morning and thank you all the gracing the celebration commemorating life and legacy of late Sri P.A. Sangma ji in the form of 7th P.A. Sangma Memorial Lecture. On the 76th birthday anniversary of the iconic leader Purno Ajitong Sangma, we recollect his contribution as the erudite speaker of the Lok Sabha from 1996 to 98 and the Chief Minister of the Meghalaya from 1998 to 90. Late P.A. Sangma was born on 1st September 1947 in Chapati, a village in the erstwhile Garo Hills district of Assam and presently in present day West Garo Hills, Meghalaya. He was awarded a posthumous Padma Vibhushan in 2017, becoming the first recipient of Padma Vibhushan from Meghalaya. It gives me great pleasure to inform you that Northeastern Hill University, Tura Campus, in association with P.A. Sangma Foundation to commemorate the birth anniversary of the legendary P.A. Sangma, is organizing the 7th P.A. Sangma Memorial Lecture today. The first P.A. Sangma Memorial Lecture was inaugurated by Nehu Tura Campus on 1st September 2017. Dr. Udayan Mishra, former professor and head of the Department of English of Dibrugarh University, delivered the first P.A. Sangma Memorial Lecture. The second P.A. Sangma Memorial Lecture was delivered by Mr. Kailash Satyarthi, Nobel Peace Laureate in 2014. Sri Prem Das Rai, former Member of Parliament, Lok Sabha, Sikkim, India, Professor David Riyat Simle, former Chairman, Union Public Service Commission and of India, Dr. Sanjay K. Srivastava, Chief of Disaster Risk Reduction Section, United Nations Economic and Social Commission of Asia and the Pacific, Professor P.K. Misra, Honorable Chancellor, Dr. Rajendra Prasad, Central Agriculture University, Pusha, Samastipur, Bihar, India. We are also among the eminent speakers of this lecture series. Dear friends, for the 7th P.A. Sangma Memorial Lecture, it is our honor to have Sri Shekhar Gupta ji, founder and the editor-in-chief of the print. He also hosted the very popular interview-based television show Walk the Talk on NDTV 24/7. Sri Shekhar Gupta was awarded the Padma Vibhushan in 2009 by the Government of India for his contribution to journalism and was elected President of the Editor Guild of India in 2018. I take this opportunity to welcome Sri Shekhar Gupta ji to this program and to Garo Hills. To welcome you, sir, again. I know everyone is enthusiastically waiting for the memorial lecture, so without taking much time, I once again welcome the Honorable Chief Minister of the Meghalaya, Honorable Speaker of the Meghalaya Legislative Assembly, all the respected minister, respected Srimati Sorojini K. Sangma, wife of late Sri P.A. Sangma, SMT Srimati Agatha K. Sangma, Honorable MP of Lok Sabha, Sri James K. Sangma, all the elected leaders, officers, and invited guests, principals, faculties, and students present who joined us to commemorate the birth anniversary of legend P.A. Sangma in the form of 7th P.A. Sangma lecture. Once again, to welcome all of you on this occasion. Thank you, Mitela Khublai Sibun, Jai Hind. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for the warm welcome and welcoming everyone to this venue. Mathela, sir, Yan Professor P.S. Shukla, sir, Vice Chancellor, Northeastern Hill University, Tura Campus, Yabyapona, Sakantikon, Rumtak Suaha. Thank you once again, sir. May I now call on our Honorable Chief Minister, sir, Dr. Conrad K. Sangma, to share his generous words with us today.
Mrs. Sorojini K. Sangma, wife of our beloved leader, late P.A. Sangma ji, my elder brother, Sri James K. Sangma, my sister, Srimati Agatha K. Sangma, also our Member of Parliament, Lok Sabha, our respected Speaker of the Meghalaya Legislative Assembly, all our respected MLAs who are present out here, Mr. Shekhar Gupta ji, who is the founder and editor-in-chief of the print, a very dear friend of late P.S. Sangma ji, and a very renowned journalist, and also the main person who will be giving the memorial lecture today. All the heads of different institutes, our officials from the administration, ladies and gentlemen. I was not aware that I had to speak, and hence I really did not come prepared. But of course, when we stand here to remember late P.A. Sangma, one doesn't need to prepare a long lecture. There are so many things to talk. But the only problem, of course, is that there will be less time. And also that all the things that are there in our memory, the things he has done and said, may not come out in the sequence that maybe we would want to if we were better prepared. But nonetheless, I would first of all like to thank the Northeast Hill University and the P.A. Sangma Foundation for having organized this memorial lecture every year without fail. And every year I have seen that the memorial lecture has got better and more organized. Of course, the quality of the people coming to give the lecture have always been the best. But from the point of organizing the program, I am happy to see that the way it has been organized today, it's been really done very well. So I must congratulate Nehu as well as the foundation and all the organizing committee members. Yes, you deserve a round of applause for organizing this beautiful program and this memorial lecture that we are having today. I don't have to go into the details of our great leader, who was not just a father to Mr. James and Madam Agatha, and a husband to my mother, but he was also, of course, a leader who we all looked up to. And for us as a family, for us as his children, apart from being a loving father, he has taught us almost everything that we needed to understand and know about politics, about leadership, about different aspects of the complications in politics that we face today. And I can say with full confidence that none of us would be here. When I say none of us, I mean the children would be here if it was not for the kind of guidance and the kind of training, I should say, that he had given us throughout our lives as small children, all the way to the point when we contested elections, to the point where we lost elections, to the point where we formed governments and governments fell. Throughout these different experiences, late P.A. Sangmaji has been a mentor and a true leader who has really taught us and guided us to always ensure that whatever we do in life, especially in politics, that it must be with keeping the people first and ensuring that every decision we take is driven by what is good for the people of our state and of this country. I remember small anecdotes, and this is something, of course, very personal, because my late father, myself, Mr. James, and all of us, we used to sit with him, with my mother, and he used to tell us many aspects about politics, and at that point in time, we never gave importance to it. It looked like another lecture that he was giving us. But then when we look back today, those lectures or those discussions became like a guide, a book, a manual on how to be in politics today. I remember he used to tell us once, Conrad, he specifically told me that time, I was discussing something with him, and it just came to my mind right now. So he told me, the problem with us is that we don't understand the problem. So I said, what does that mean? He said, the problem is we don't know the problem. And it took me some time to grasp that. And today, being Chief Minister, I can tell you it may be one of the most important advices anyone could give anyone. Now, for example, we are here in the state and we look at the class 10 results. And then we all become very worried and upset and get very angry and say, what's happening? Why are children failing in class 10? Not realizing that the failure is the result of the problem, not the problem in itself. And our problem is that we don't understand that problem. Because the problem is everything starts from KG 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So a simple example of a great, value or suggestion that he had taught us. That problem is we don't understand the problem. We look at maternal mortality rate and we say mothers are dying. And then we blame the hospital, we blame the doctors, we blame the nurses, we blame the politicians. Yes, everybody has their responsibility. But the problem again is not the problem that they are losing their lives. It starts much before that. It starts with the point where the mother is, conceives a child, and the different care that is given to them, the high risk mothers, so on and so forth. So a great advice given by a great person. And as I said, it takes some time for us to absorb it, but I can tell you that these thoughts keep coming back to me. And I remember him telling me that the problem is we don't understand the problem. And it's so true, even today, as I head the government in our state, that it helps me to understand how to resolve the problems. I remember once he told me about decision making. He told me decision making is one part of the process. The second part, which is equally important, is how you implement the decision and when you implement the decision. So taking a decision is one part, but how you implement it and when you implement it is equally important. And one doesn't realize it till you actually go through it, that it's so true. You may want to do something that's going to be very important for, say, some community. But then you shouldn't do it without taking the other communities into confidence. So how you do it? By taking people into confidence, by creating a consensus, by making people understand. When do you do it? You do it when you realize that, yes, you are getting everybody on board and you have more or less a consensus and you can actually go through with the decision that you take. Small advices given by late P.S. Sangma, which, as I said, sounded like a lecture to me when I was 19 years old, 20 years old, 21 years old. But today, I look back and I write down those 10, 15, 20 things that I could remember that he told me. And these two just strike out because it helps me almost every day in the work that I do, which is that decisions are important, but when and how you implement them is equally important. And the problem is that we sometimes look at results and think that that is the problem. The outcome is the problem, whereas the problem actually is somewhere else. And I'm sure many of us have learned small things like these from late P.S. Sangma, a man who is far beyond what meets the eye. And we just read about what he did. We look at one or two of the foundation stones. We see this auditorium built by him in 1988. And we remember, oh yes, Mr. P.S. Sangma built this. Those are just infrastructures or certain parts of what he built. But it is the different values, the different kind of principles, the different kind of thoughts that he had shared with us, which will continue to live on and go on even beyond his lifetime and beyond our lifetime also. These ideas that he brought in, I think those are the real contributions that he has made to our people. And even today, I'm so happy to see young people here. Mr. P.S. Sangma is somebody who we should try and learn and try to copy and emulate what he used to do. And as I tell you, there's a lot that you can learn from Mr. P.S. Sangma and the work that he did. And a true dedication to him, and a great memory for him, and the way to remember him the most would be to follow in his footsteps of loving his people, in his footsteps of maintaining his principle, in the footsteps of always remembering that you should keep the nation first, the people first. I think these are irrepressible principles and values, and I hope that through this memorial lecture and through many other activities that we will do in the future, that our youngsters will be able to learn from the life of late P.S. Sangma and be able to contribute to society, to your families, and to the country and the world in the days to come. I'm happy to also announce and inform you that P.S. Sangma Higher Secondary School is functioning, and it has a college wing which we call Abong Noga College, and it is now a People's College. The foundation is finalizing its project proposal to now start the new campus building, and we are working towards that, and from this year itself we will start working on the new infrastructure and the new building for the P.S. Sangma Higher Secondary School and the Abong Noga College, and we expect that very soon that this new infrastructure will be started and will complete also very soon. At the same time, you're aware that the football field or the stadium that was built by late P.S. Sangma, the first part of the football stadium is complete, which is at a cost of 45 crores. And the second half, which is at the cost of 75 crores, which is an indoor stadium, the work for that has already started, and we expect that to be completed in the next couple of years. Apart from that, there are other programs that P.S. Sangma Foundation is working on, and I hope that in the days and months and years to come, that we will be able to expand and work on these different ideas. I'm here to, of course, speak on behalf of the family also, that as a family, we will continue to support the P.S. Sangma Foundation and the work that the foundation is doing, especially in running the education institutions, and more importantly, in continuing to spread the ideologies of late P.S. Sangma. I take this opportunity also to thank Mr. Shekhar Gupta, who is again a very, very close friend of the family, and he was very, very close to late P.S. Sangma. And in fact, I remember in 2008 or 2009, there was a walk the talk interview which Mr. Shekhar Gupta and Mr. P.S. Sangma had in Golf Links in Shillong. And I was there watching the interview live, and I still remember that memory of Mr. Shekhar Gupta and late P.S. Sangma together in Golf Links in 2008, 2009. So Mr. Shekhar Gupta, thank you so much for coming. I know that you have taken really a time out, and we all know your closeness and your relation with late P.S. Sangma ji. And as a family and as a foundation, we once again thank you for taking your time out and coming here to speak about late P.S. Sangma, and especially on the topic that we have, which is what politicians can teach us about leadership and management. So with these few words, once again, I welcome you all to this program, and thank Nehu and the P.S. Sangma Foundation for organizing this lecture, and once again thank Mr. Shekhar Gupta ji for having taken his time out and come here for this memorial lecture. So thank you very much. Kublai Shibun, Matela, and Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your thoughts with us. Indeed, sir, impromptu speeches are always the best, because you tend to speak your heart out, whatever comes to your mind first. And surely we did enjoy every moment of what you have to speak on this occasion today. especially on a day like this when many memories may have come flashing right before your eyes, remembering the birth of your dear father, late P.A. Sangma sir. So thank you, sir. Cheng baksa ungi, cheng baksa agananina, nangko cheng sa taijan mani palo, mutela haijan majak pa ko duwatay nama. Our dignitaries will now be paying their tributes to our late P.A. Sangma sir. To lead the tribute, may I call on the wife of late P.A. Sangma sir, Madam Soradini K. Sangma. Madam, the floral tribute ko dakna na ridalat pao namgen. And I also request the family members and side by side all the dignitaries to pay their respects to our great leader, late P.A. Sangma sir. Thank you all the guests and dignitaries for paying homage to late P.A. Sangma Sir this day. Thank you everyone. And we move on to our main event. It is my greatest privilege to introduce our speaker for today. Shekhar Gupta is founder and editor-in-chief of The Print, India's fastest growing digital news platform for its non-hyphenated journalism. He is a prolific columnist with his highly influential weekly column, National Interest, which is translated into 5 languages. A selection of these columns was collected in the best-selling book, Anticipating India. Shekhar ji, a recipient of the Padma Bhushan, hosts Off the Cuff, an offering from The Print, which sees him in conversation with an eminent guest twice a month. The daily YouTube show, Cut the Clutter, explains and analyzes the big news development of the day from India and around the world. In the past, he also hosted Walk the Talk on NDTV 24/7 every week for almost 15 years. A collection of these news-making interviews has been published as a book, Walk the Talk, Decoding Politicians. In his 4-decade career, Shekhar ji has reported on key Indian and international events. He had served as the editor-in-chief of the Indian Express for 19 years and simultaneously held the position of the company's chief executive for 13 years. I very much hope that he found Garo Hills just as late P.A. Sangma Sir had described it during his interview, Walk the Talk, years back. Our speaker for today, ladies and gentlemen, Sir Shekhar Gupta ji. Sir? I think he has found Tura quite interesting, sir. Let him make new memories in Tura to take back along at home. Sir, your lecture is on the way, and the youth of today, all those gathered here today, are eagerly awaiting your speech. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mrs. Sorodini Sangma, Conrad James, Agatha, all the young people I know. It's a very special honor for me to be here. When I got a message from James, and I said that I immediately said I'll be going for this. My office was a bit surprised because it's a bit of a tight time. Actually, in journalism, everything is a tight time. So also a tight time a bit personally. Our son who lives in UK, he was coming in just yesterday for just one working week, and the same day I was to come here. And also there were other stuff going on, and you know, politics right now is very hot. I mean, Mr. Modi took advantage of my absence in Delhi and announced a special session of Parliament, and Financial Times took advantage of my absence in Delhi and broke the story on Adani. These are big news breaks. So, so the question was, can you really go? And then come to Guwahati, then drive, etc., etc. But there was no question that I will immediately say yes, and I will come back. And there are many reasons for that. And one of the reasons is that I have a bunch of regrets. One regret is that I was the Indian Express correspondent in the Northeast between 1981 to 83. I was based in Shillong because Shillong was then like the capital of the Northeast. So I was based in Shillong, and I traveled all over the Northeast. But I traveled almost nowhere in Meghalaya. And even in Meghalaya, except going as a tourist to Cherrapunji or a couple of other places. And also in Meghalaya, never came to Garo Hills and never came to Tura. And what was the reason? The reason was one, there was no trouble in Meghalaya, because there was trouble in Nagaland, there was trouble in Mizoram, there was trouble in Tripura, there was trouble in Assam at that point, big trouble. Assam had the big movement on, oil was blockaded. There was always something interesting going on in Arunachal, because Arunachal was a work in progress as a unit of the federation. But Meghalaya was so calm. It was much too calm for a journalist. So I was very happy to be in Shillong, didn't travel. And so this is a box I had to check on my CV, that I've been to Garo Hills and Tura. But that's a minor thing. The more important thing is the affection for Purno Sangma and his family. So as I mentioned to you, if I came to work in the Northeast at Shillong in 1981, Purno Sangma was a very young man. He was a very young man. Captain Williamson Sangma was then the giant of Garo leaders. It was the Williamson Sangma, Bibi Lingdo, that era. I mean, if you want to connect with that era, I think at that point in 1981, James was about 5, Conrad was about 3, and Agatha, you were just over 1 year old. So just about exactly 1.5 years after you were born, our first child was born in Shillong, our daughter. So she was born in Shillong. So it was that far back. There is also a bunch of other regrets. And one of which is that Purno Sangma, one, he left too early. He left too early. He'd be 76 now, which means really left early. He had a lot left to do, because India has 8% of India is tribal, which means India has by far the largest tribal community in the world. 8% means nearly 11 crore, 10 crore tribals. But tribals, by their very definition, because each tribe is distinctive, there are many tribes. There are many tribes. There are tribes in the Northeast. There are tribes in larger tribal population in East Central India, that is Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, Odisha, and then there are tribal communities in other parts of the country. We've never really had national tribal leaders, because usually tribal leaders end up being leaders of their own tribes. They don't become leaders of the tribal communities, speaking for the tribal cause, tribal point of view across the country. There have been very few like that. And Purno Sangma had risen to that stature, and he was rising in that stature. I thought, given the fact that he was very young, I thought, oh, finally, India has a pan-national tribal leader. And he's a pan-national tribal leader who will also find a following among tribals of East Central India. That is where right now you have a lot of dissatisfaction, economic distress. There is economic distress everywhere, but East Central India in particular, that's where you have Naxalism. But tribal, and they have tribal leaders there, but a national level tribal leader is still lacking. And that is the gap that Purno Sangma left behind. Had he been around, this is no age. I mean, next year in America, if Trump wins his nomination, which he likely will, 2 80-year-olds will be fighting to be presidents of America. So age, the definition of age has now been changed. So Purno Sangma would have been a very active, very powerful, mainstream pan-national politician. Because none of us saw him as a leader from the Northeast or as a leader of one tribe, leader of Garos of the Northeast. And I believe, and I do believe, I have good reasons to believe that even in Meghalaya, other tribes, Khasis, Jaintias, they did not see him only as a Garo leader. To that extent, his passing away was also a loss to India. India's tribal community, but also to India. India even now does not have a pan-national tribal leader, and you need tribal leaders, because to keep India's cohesion, you need tribal leaders. If it's 11 to 12 crore tribals, and somebody can speak for them, then sensibilities about tribal life can come out, which otherwise we tend to not know, because we think ignorance is bliss. It is not needed. At events like this, pay some compliments to tribals, talk about this and that, but we don't understand how different and how distinct our tribes can be and how important they are for us. I'll give you an example. How one articulate tribal leader can make a big difference. If you go back to the proceedings of our Constituent Assembly, there was a gentleman called Jaipal Singh Jhala. Now, Jaipal Singh Jhala was a tribal from Ranchi. Ranchi, he was from a very poor family. He was adopted by a family of Christian preachers, British Christian preachers, who sort of took him under their wings, gave him modern education. He acquired an Oxbridge degree. I forget which one is Oxford, Cambridge, I forget which one, but one of those. He got selected for ICS, did not join the ICS because he wanted to do other things. Among other things he wanted to do was play hockey. So he was a member of the Indian hockey team, which won India's first Olympic gold medal. So there was a tribal Indian in the first Indian hockey team to win a gold medal, I think Amsterdam, in the Olympics. And now you can see, even now, you cannot constitute an Indian hockey team, whether for men or women, without a tribal from East Central India, and usually a Methi from Manipur as well. Importantly, because then he dumped ICS because he wanted to serve the national cause, and he was invited to the Constituent Assembly. He spoke for the tribals, and one of the debates in the Constituent Assembly was actually no debate at all, or was threatening to become no debate at all, and that was on whether India should have universal prohibition. This was Gandhi's country. I know 90% people go home and break this Gandhian vow, but in a Constituent Assembly, who would say, I don't want prohibition in India, right? But it's Jaipal Singh Jhala, it was Jaipal Singh Munda, sorry, I confused him there. Jaipal Singh Munda, who stood up and said, no. You cannot have universal prohibition, because for us tribals, it's a way of life. It's not necessarily a vice. It's a way of life. You cannot impose your way of life for us. So I sometimes say, sort of half jokingly, but half seriously also, that we owe it to a tribal to save us from the tyranny of universal prohibition, because we know that it hasn't worked anywhere in the world, and it will not work anywhere in the world. That said, Purno Sangma, so that was the one regret, that he left too soon, because he had what Jaipal Singh Munda did on a different plane in late 40s, early 50s. Purno Sangma was there to do, he was positioned to do, with much better communication now and much better awareness now, because in Delhi, in the arrogant, ugly, noisy, polluted reality of Delhi, he was never seen as a leader of a small tribe from a distant place. He was seen as a mainstream pan-national leader. So that's one. The second regret is a two-in-one, that Purno Sangma did not become President of India. Because at a time when he contested, it is tragic that everybody didn't agree on him getting the presidency. And one of the reasons that did not happen was the internal politics then of Congress party, because Mr. Pranab Mukherjee had his own issues with his party high command. I think he would have wanted to be prime minister several times in the past, including in 1984. It didn't happen many times. So he really wanted to be president now. And he was a preeminent figure in the Congress party. I will not go into that. I would have wished if Congress party had agreed also in 2012 to unanimously accept Purno Sangma as India's president. I said it's a two-in-one regret because if he had become president, he would have become India's first tribal president. So we welcome the fact that India has its first tribal president now in Draupadi Murmu, president. So that's a very good thing. But this is something that could have happened much earlier. And so that's a second regret. And third regret is that when I worked, that's a personal regret, when I worked in the Northeast between 1981 to 83, I never got to know Purno very much because Purno was a much younger politician. At that point, I told you that Bibi Lingdo and Captain Sangma were dominant. Meghalaya politics was reasonably stable and Meghalaya had no trouble. So my interaction with the political class in Meghalaya was very limited, and it's unfortunate that I didn't get to know Purno then, but in Delhi, he more than made up for it because anybody who touched, went back with that touch because his touch of affection and warmth endured. So to that extent, he was the Northeast India's, especially the tribal Northeast India's finest ambassador in New Delhi. There's never been one before him there's never been one like that before him, and until now, there hasn't been one after him. I know Agatha's there. Agatha, you have big shoes to fill. So I wish you well, and I wish your brothers well, and ma'am, Swaradini ji, you should be very proud of them. Now, what are we talking about today? We are talking about learning leadership and management from politicians. So when I was looking at that audio visual which was going on, short film on late Purno Sangma's life, I saw a familiar figure there, a familiar figure which most people in this audience would not remember. Most of you would not remember the gentleman called Bhishma Narayan Singh. So Bhishma Narayan Singh was sent as governor of Assam in 1983, if I remember correctly, just after the Big Nelly massacre and the terrible election in Assam, which Mrs. Gandhi had enforced. She enforced an election because assembly had been non-existent for a long time. It was unsustainable to keep the state under a president's rule forever. Also, Mrs. Gandhi had her own politics and her own way of governance. So she said, opposition or no opposition, I will hold an election in Assam. That election led to a lot of killings and violence. In fact, in my book, I listed more than 7,000 people died in that election campaign. After that, she sent as governor to Assam, Bhishma Narayan Singh. Now, Bhishma Narayan Singh was a very young governor. He was young for a governor. Governors are usually people who've been there, done that. So usually governors are people who are retired politicians, and very often they are politicians who are retired hurt. Like in cricket, we say retired hurt. A batter gets hit on the head or something, then they say retired hurt, right? So in politics also people get retired hurt, which means I wanted to be chief minister, nobody made me chief minister. Then they said, you're too old to be chief minister, so I'll send you as governor. So if you look at your governors, no offense to the Meghalaya governor, wonderful person, but if you look at our Raj Bhavans, usually these are people who are retired, hurt from politics. By that definition, Bhishma Narayan Singh was very young. He was in his 50s. And I said, he sent for me, and I went to see him in the Raj Bhavan in Guwahati. And I said, why have you been sent as a governor at such a young age? You are a very young governor. Governors are old, spent people with nothing else to do. In fact, I said to him that I think that I will write an article on the life of governors in India that will be headlined, looking at the Raj Bhavan, all this and boredom too. That you have all this tamjham, all these retainers, waiters, two uniform ADCs, but you have nothing to do, right? So you have all of this in boredom too, and he said, no, it's not like this. The Northeast is going through a very tough time. So Mrs. Gandhi called me and she said, Bhishmanaranji, you are a young person. I want you to go as governor of Assam, because Assam is central to whatever happens in all of the Northeast. Because Assam is the pivot around which all of the Northeast works. And I believe that if India has to ever break up, the breakup will start from the Northeast. The breakup will not start from anywhere else, it will start from the Northeast. So we have to keep the Northeast together. We have to reassure the people of the Northeast. Population in the Northeast are small. States don't feel so empowered because they're sending 1 MP, 2 MPs for most states. Even Assam, these are 13, 14 MPs. I call them sort of Punjab-sized states or Assam-sized states. States which send below 15, more than 10, but below 15 MPs. So that is Haryana, Punjab, Jharkhand, Telangana, Assam, Odisha. So these are smaller states. But she said around this smaller state of Assam, they are really tiny states. So I need people, energetic people. I need an energetic person there who brings the voice of Northeast to New Delhi, because New Delhi treats everybody with a sense of out of sight, out of mind. So he served time in Assam with some distinction. And that was also a lesson I learned in leadership and and management, because somebody was looking far ahead on one very vital part of the country. Now again, early on, I also heard a speaker say that, how everybody feels more connected, much more connected. In the Northeast, everybody feels much more connected to India. Everybody feels that they are much more a part of India. That's a very good point and a very valid point. And I will give you an example of that in a minute. But more important thing now, and that's a national leadership challenge, the more important thing now is that the rest of India must also feel a part of the Northeast. Rest of India should not look at the Northeast just in the sense that this is our territory should not go away. The rest of India should all feel part of the Northeast. More people from the rest of India should come to the Northeast. More people from the rest of India must get an opportunity to interact with people in the Northeast. Now, I'm very happy that lots of young men and women from the Northeast are going and working all over the country, not just in services industry, but I see them in all India services. I see them now increasingly in the corporate world. I see them increasingly in the media. In fact, the most prominent television anchor in India is from Assam. All of you know who I'm talking about, Arnab Goswami, right? He's from Assam. So he's so mainstream that most people don't even remember. Most people are not even conscious that he's from Assam. He's so mainstream. The fact, however, is that in the years I used to be a reporter, when there was a strike in Guwahati, which was all the time. If there are 365 days in a year, there was a bandh or strike in Guwahati for 366 days, right? So on any of those days, in fact, last night as I came in and I was going to North Guwahati to meet an old friend of mine, I was just mentioning to him, because now they built that flyover over Maligaon, that earlier after you fought through the traffic jams at Maligaon and you entered Guwahati to a place called Bharalu Mukh, that's where the stream is, right on the mouth of Bharalu Mukh used to be the chamber, so-called chamber of Dinesh Goswami. Dinesh Goswami was a member of parliament from Assam, also law minister in VP Singh's cabinet. And we would just hang out in his chamber or office, and he fed us tea which was more sugar than tea all the time. He happens to be, I think Arnab happens to be his nephew. So these are challenges that leaders have in India vis-a-vis the Northeast. Leaders in the Northeast have the challenge of not just convincing the rest of India of the stake they have. First of all, the rest of India has to give up its insecurity about the Northeast. there is no reason to have any more insecurity about the Northeast, any more than you might have about some crime-prone district of Bihar or Uttar Pradesh. So we should focus on those. In fact, I keep telling people that in most parts of the Northeast, you are perfectly safe if you are walking on the street after sunset, right? In many parts of mainland India, that might not be the case. But the Northeast has very good law and order, and that is something, again, by way of communication, that has to go out. The second thing, again, talk about leadership and management. So a twin lesson for both from Purno Sangma himself. Purno Sangma, in my book, since I have started watching national politics closely, which is almost more than 3 decades now, Purno Sangma was the most effective Speaker of Parliament. By far, he was the most effective Speaker of Parliament. And if today people say Parliament is chaotic, opposition is so noisy, opposition is too noisy, they don't let Parliament function, they haven't seen Parliament when Congress party was the ruling party and BJP were, and others were the opposition. The problem with the Congress party is they don't know how to be opposition. It's the BJP that knows how to be opposition. When Rajiv Gandhi was in power, he had 415 seats in Lok Sabha, 415. BJP had 2. BJP had 2, Janata Party had 3, and Lok Dal had 10. So in fact, then our education system was 10 plus 2 plus 3 system. So Rajiv Gandhi, after that election, said that we have declared 10 plus 2 plus 3 system for the opposition in India. See the noise that opposition made in national parliament. The noise the opposition made in parliament when Narasimha Rao was prime minister. The noise, and I don't see noise necessarily as a value judgment. Noise in parliament is a good thing as long as parliament functions. Problems arise when parliaments don't function. But somebody should do a study on Purno Sangma's record as speaker, that how he was able to minimize adjournments in his parliament. And he used many management techniques for doing that. For example, speaker in parliament has a lot of discretionary power. Parliament sends a lot of delegations overseas, nice junkets overseas. And it's the speaker who can decide who to spend. So he would call the noisiest ones and say, abhi delegation ja raha hai, right? लंदन जा रहा है, आपको जाना है ना, जाना है, लेकिन फिर पार्लियामेंट में, and then you would find that the noisiest MPs in parliament will become the most peaceful MPs. Pappu Yadav, who must have more cases against him, serious criminal cases against him in Bihar than any other politician. I think if you do it top of the pops, 10 politicians with the largest number of serious criminal cases, not rioting, throwing stones that every politician has. Not those, right? Not making hate speeches that everybody has, but real, murder, rape, dacoity, robbery, all that kind of stuff. And yet, he was the most disciplined politician in Purno's house, because Purno would say that, look, you are in jail, you want out of jail, right? You want out of jail, you can have some proper food, have a little fun on the side, whatever. So I, as the speaker, can give you permission or can summon you to parliament, so you get your time out of jail. These are all management methods. Also, he communicated with every party. Pardon me for saying this, but the fact is that he was apologies to the current speakers, that he was the current speakers and also their predecessors, not just under this government, but previous government also, and speakers even before Purno Sangma. I'd say in the last 30-35 years, he was the only speaker who was genuinely independent because of the power of his own personality. Because he combined charm with some of these tactics, management tactics, and also his own stature to raise the position to a certain level. Because speaker in our democracy provides stability. we undermine that position, but Speaker provides stability to our politics. And once Speaker goes and sits in the House, then has to be unmindful of who has what numbers in the House. So, say post 1984, if BJP had only 2 MPs in the House, then the Speaker should have been unmindful of those 2. But see what kind of JPC that Parliament ran in Beaufort. That JPC under Shankaranan was a sham. The Speaker has a big role in these areas, and Purno had really raised the stature of the Speaker's chair, which is one more reason that I think he really needed to become the President of India, because if he did, he would have also raised the stature of the position of the President of India, because President of India doesn't have much power, but President of India has moral authority. The framers of our constitution were not stupid, and they were not underemployed. They thought, let's create the position of a speaker also. They created the position of a speaker of a president, because president was supposed to be the elder statesman who will then be non-partisan, who will look at everybody fairly, and people will think that, look, president stays within their limits, but when push comes to the shove, the presidents use their special powers, which basically come in terms of moral authority. We have cases of President Kalam returning the appointment of some judges because he saw problems. The Supreme Court Collegium sent it back saying, no, this is fine, and he sent it back again. That's moral authority. And that judge did not go where the Collegium wanted him to go. Similarly, we have seen other presidents also act on dismissals of state governments on the various operations in the past. Now you might call it Operation Kamal, but in the past, these operations have carried on. You can call them Operation Marigold, Operation Daisy, Operation Lily, whatever, but these operations have gone on to get defectors and break state governments. But in some of those situations, particularly in Bihar, presidents of India have intervened and have made a big difference. And once again, Purno could have done that. Now, the other reason I feel so honored to be here is that this is Northeastern Hill University. So when I came to the Northeast first in Shillong, Nehu was coming up. It was a temporary campus. It was like a campus in barracks. Beyond Nongthimai, some area, I forget what area it was. Then I saw what a beautiful campus came up in Shillong, and the campus came up in Tura, to which I am coming for the first time. I'm very impressed. You have 600 plus acres of land. You should be doing enormously more with this, which you will. And I was very happy to listen to you, Vice Chancellor Saab, Professor Prabhashankar Shukla. Professor Prabhashankar Shukla is an eminent scientist. I don't know how many of you know it, but he's a plant breeder, and he has himself developed about 6 or 8 varieties of soybean. So that's a genuine researcher. And once again, the Northeast needs leadership in industrial/scientific research, because the only industry that will work in the Northeast, which is sustainable and for which the soil of Northeast and the environment have carrying capacity, is the agro-based industry. So, sir, wonderful to have you in this campus. Now, Purno was one of the Midnight's children. Now, Midnight's children is something that Salman Rushdie made immortal with his book. But Purno is one of those. He was born in 1947. So if we look at lessons in leadership, we can go right back there and we can think about the kind of India we inherited. That means these days we don't even say forefathers, right? Our previous generation inherited. If I say forefather, then all these young students sitting there will say it's politically incorrect, right? Because now fathers, mothers, everybody was there. That's the reason at the print we don't allow the use of the expression founding fathers. We say founders of Indian Republic. Nevertheless, if you see what the founders of the modern Indian Republic inherited, there was the partition riots going on. There were literally millions of people being slaughtered on both sides. 500 plus states in India didn't know where they wanted to go because the British had given them some notion of fake autonomy, because none of them really had autonomy except to tax their people and rob them with taxes and spend all of the money on themselves. It's only one state where rulers spent on education and built their human capital, and you can see those states still remain progressive and those states still remain ahead. Kerala, for example, the ruler of Kerala spent a lot of money on education. Rulers of rulers of Gwalior, Sindhia set up educational institutions. The ruler of Patiala set up educational institution, patronized sport, but not many others did. Now, all of them had to be brought together in one country. There was the Kashmir issue because the Pakistanis were already in Kashmir. Kashmir had a large Muslim majority. Hindu-Muslim riots were going on in a big way in the Jammu region of Kashmir. Kashmir was very poorly connected with the rest of India. In the middle of all that, both India and Pakistan had temporary armies in the sense that armies had been divided in a hurry. It was the same army. So wherever you had a clear Muslim unit, it was moved to Pakistan army. Wherever you had a clear Hindu Sikh unit, it was moved to Indian army. But there were so many mixed units. For example, armored corps, artillery, grenadiers, guards, these were mixed regiments. So armored corps, 2 squadrons were Hindus, 1 squadron was Sikh, 2 squadrons were Muslim. So in the same regiment, 2 squadrons went to Pakistan, 3 squadrons remained in India. Both armies, remember, both armies, Indian army as well as Pakistani army, did not have their own chiefs. They had British chiefs. And the British chiefs continued on. And when India and Pakistan fought their first war in 1947-48, both the armies had British chiefs. So these were British army generals leading Indian and Pakistani armies against each other, and their prize was Kashmir. So it was that situation that leaders of India inherited. And see what the leaders of India did. If you see the first cabinet of India, first government of India, it was a non-polarizing government of India. It had everybody. It had people, I would say people of the soft left, like Nehru obviously. They also had people of the hard right, like Shyama Prasad Mukherjee, and people of the soft right, like Sardar Patel, who was a congressman, but many others were not even Congress people. Because the important thing was to bring everybody together. So that is the first lesson in leadership that we learned from our politicians, that when you had to keep the country together, you had to reach out to everybody and put together a government. Because everything in India was a work in progress. And then we come into 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. Now, we don't have time to go into all that. But in every period, something that was happening globally and something that was happening domestically defined India. And we have to learn from every leader who shepherded India in each one of these stages. And I say very often, people say, oh, this government is strong, that government was weak on internal security. And I tell people that I've interacted with leaders at least for the past 40, 45 years. And I have watched India's internal security situation very carefully over this period as a journalist. I can tell you that no government in India has ever been soft on internal security. Every government of India has been tough on internal security, with the exception of one. But that government was fortunately very short-lived. That is VP Singh's government. It's VP Singh's government under which we saw Kashmir trouble start, because that is when Mufti Muhammad Said's daughter was kidnapped and the Kashmiri militancy started and the Pandits were expelled. It was in his time that he, under pressure from the Akalis, decided to reach out to militants in Punjab and released many of them, and killings started in a very big way in Punjab. He also did not handle Pakistan well, but fortunately he was only there for 10 months as president. But if you look at everybody else, we can speak for 2 hours about how each one of them handled India's challenges. But we have limited time, and I know all of you have other things to do. It's also a bit warm in the hall. I will leapfrog these periods because Indira Gandhi has had books written about her. Nehru has had books written about her. Now books are being written about Nehru in terms of what he did wrong, which is also a good thing. All leaders should be assessed critically, ideally in their lifetimes, but if not in their lifetimes, then subsequently. But see the India that existed in 1991. Go back to January 1991. That was one of the most uncertain periods in India's history, and many of us, at least those in the first 5 rows, were at least born at that time. I know that most in the rows after that, and definitely not in the rows top of that, were born until then, because that would make you 32 years old at least. In 1991, India had a very unstable government because VP Singh's government had fallen. A new government under Chandrasekhar had come in. Chandrasekhar only had 40 MPs with him. So immediately everybody said Ali Baba or whatever, right? And 40 others. That government was sustained by Congress party with outside support. And you know what happens to government which survive on outside support from Congress party. They have a very short half-life. They disappear very soon. It happened with Charan Singh, whose government fell in 1980 without even facing its vote of no confidence. And other governments also, Gowda's government later, Gujarat's government, Chandrasekhar's government. Any government that is set up with Congress's support will go sooner than later. So it was a very weak government, a prime minister with just 40 MPs. That is when India had the balance of payments crisis, and India didn't know what to do. India was on the verge of defaulting. So it was that supposedly weak government with just 40 MPs that decided that no matter what happens, India will not default on its payments because national honor was involved. So that government put India's gold reserves on airplanes and sent them to Switzerland and sent them to London. So India would put its gold reserves as security to borrow money against that, so India will not default on its foreign payments. That is something that recently happened with Sri Lanka. That is something that Pakistan came to the verge of. Pakistan is also always helped out by somebody. If none else, then their lender of last resort is China. India didn't want to do it. So that big decision was taken by a prime minister who knew that he was there for a very short while. So that's a lesson in leadership. The second thing, today we say that India and America have moved very close together. 3 Indian prime ministers have called America and India essential strategic allies, natural strategic allies. In 1991, the first Gulf War had started in Iraq after Saddam Hussein had occupied Kuwait. Americans wanted refueling rights for their aircraft that were taking off from Diego Garcia to go to the Gulf, which an Indian government, can you imagine in 1991, an Indian government allowing refueling rights to American military aircraft in India? That was Chandrasekhar's government. Number 3, we say that Manmohan Singh came under Narasimha Rao and he reformed India's economy. What a brilliant idea. But we forget who it is that brought Manmohan Singh in the system. It was Chandrasekhar in his temporary government who brought Manmohan Singh as an advisor to the Prime Minister in the position with the stature of that, including and especially from Manish Shankar Iyer, whose book has just come out. Because these were the old leftists in the Congress party who thought that the existence of Israel is anathema, it's an obscenity. So he did that. At the same time, the big change he made on India's economy, he let Manmohan Singh do it. He gave protection to Manmohan Singh. So if you see he gave hardly any interview, but I have a 2-part long walk the talk with him. In fact, I have 2 walk the talks, by the way, with Purno. One in the golf course in Shillong. That was in two parts, long one and one also in his home when he was candidate for the election campaign. So he said, in one of those, he said, I told Manmohan Singh, bhai, you do all this. They will blame you. They will blame you. But when they blame you, I will take the blame upon myself and I will say, don't blame him. He's not a political person. Blame me. I'm a political person. So that's a lesson in leadership, that a leader puts his hand up when something risky is being done and says, look, if something goes wrong, I am responsible. And second, just the wisdom. I asked him that, look, you are a socialist. You say that you are still a socialist. You were always a socialist. And yet you reformed India's economy. So how did you make this U-turn? So he said, no, it's on camera, you can see it. And he said, no. In a country like India, you can never be seen to be making a U-turn. So if you cannot be seen to be making a U-turn, how does Narasimha Rao make a U-turn without making it seem like he's making a U-turn? So he thought for a minute and he said, bhai, suppose the ground under you is moving. So to me, what that means is it's a leadership lesson, because when a leader wants to bring in a decision which may either be unpopular or which may be difficult to explain right now but has to be taken, the leader has to create an environment so people think that this is happening. So that's what he meant by saying, why suppose the ground under you is moving. So India is a work in progress. There will be many difficult decisions that will need to be taken. We have ongoing issues, chronic issues with Pakistan, China. Someday hard decisions will have to be taken. On the economy, hard decisions will have to be taken. A successful leader will then create the environment for that. A successful leader then will create the situation whereby people will think that the earth is moving in that direction. So to me, those are the main lessons in leadership and management that I might have learned from politicians who I might have interacted with or whom I might have seen from close. So thank you very much for your patience. Next time, give me a little notice. I'll organize better weather for you, because with Delhi Wala's thing, we have the power to do everything, including improve weather elsewhere, not in Delhi. Delhi weather is the worst. And the one thing we don't have power over is to clean up Delhi's air. So stay blessed. Your air is so much cleaner than Delhi's. All of you will live many years longer than the rest of us. Thank you very much for your patience. And thank you, Sangma family.
That was Shekharji delivering his lecture on what politicians can teach us about leadership and management and touching major issues with us in this humble gathering. Sangsatay manderang naganas kinga nasimang daal distraction rang ongimeng bini lecture ko masir jagen mga ngode anting na live feed rang donga the Meghalayan aro Hub News anting na dal ni lecture ko live cover kainga. You can always go back home and tune in again. Thank you. Thank you, sir, for coming all the way to visit us, to share your thoughts with us. It is an immense delight to have someone of your caliber to commemorate such a happy occasion. Hope our place was just as you imagined it to be. Hope expectations met reality. आपका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद आप यहाँ हमारे बीच में आए शेखर जी. Wish you safe returns on your way back home. Thank you on behalf of everyone present here. Once again, let us offer our appreciation to Sir Shekhar Gupta ji with a thunderous applause. Hai Zakpa. rak be doke kom kalatna. This is all the love we can give you as you return back home, sir. We will now have the presentation of a memento and a traditional Garo jacket to Sri Shekhar Gupta ji by Srimati Soradini K. Sangma, something to take back home from our very own Garo Hills to remind you of this splendid occasion that was lit by your presence. Thank you once again, sir, for being here. Madam, kasapae, sir na memento aro jacket ko, patat habo. Chelbeya biaponi ancheng baksa ungi, ya program ko, ya lecture ko chusokataha, ancheng ni walk the talk, off the cuffs ni Sir Shekhar Gupta ji. Uko daw ancheng na Madam Soradini K. Sangma, memento aro jacket ko onani ko dakang niya. Just matches his attire. There we have for you Gupta ji in our traditional jacket. And may I request the family members of late P.A. Sangma sir to accompany them for a group photograph. The family members of late P.A. Sangma sir. Chasongni chasongna giskrai dongna gata. Album rango chpi thari donna gata. Thank you once again, the family members of late P.A. Sangma. Thank you, Madam Soradini K. Sangma, for honoring our special guest for today. And may I now invite Professor Sujata Gurudev, campus in charge, Nehu Tura, to propose the vote of thanks.
Honorable Chief Minister, Sri Conrad K. Sangma, his wife, Dr. Mehtab A. Sangma, Srimati Soradini K. Sangma, wife of the late P.A. Sangma ji, Lok Sabha MP Srimati Agatha K. Sangma, Sri James Sangma, former Minister and Chairman MIDC, Vice Chancellor NEHU, Professor P.S. Shukla ji, Shri Shekhar Gupta ji, Honorable MLAs, MDCs, Deputy Commissioner, officers, staff, colleagues from NEHU, Tura campus, our august audience, and all my beloved students. Good afternoon. On behalf of NEHU Tura campus and P.S. Sangma Foundation, I stand here today with a heart filled with gratitude and appreciation. The success of the 7th P.S. Sangma Memorial Lecture by Shri Shekhar Gupta ji would not have been possible without the collective efforts, support, and enthusiasm of all present here. First and foremost, I would like to express our deepest gratitude to our Honorable Chief Minister, Shri Conrad K. Sangma, for taking time to grace us with his wisdom and insights. Your presence here has added immense value to this event, and we are truly honored by your participation. Shri Thomas A. Sangma, Speaker, Legislative Assembly, thank you, sir. A very special word of thanks goes out to Shri Shekhar Gupta ji, founder and editor-in-chief of The Print, a widely read digital news platform of repute. We appreciate that you agreed to grace and address the memorial lecture coming all the way from New Delhi. Your lecture today has been thought-provoking, and I'm sure everyone present in this auditorium will go back with fond memories of this program. I would like to convey our deep appreciation to our MP, Srimati Agatha K. Sangma, and all dignitaries. Our special thanks goes out to Shri James K. Sangma for his efforts to oversee the event and for being in constant touch with NEHU to ensure that everything was arranged and coordinated properly. Our heartfelt thanks to our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor P.S. Shukla, for gracing this occasion. I would like to extend our appreciation to the organizing committee and all the volunteers who have dedicated their time, energy, expertise in ensuring the smooth execution of every aspect of this event. Your hard work behind the scenes has not gone unnoticed, and we are indeed indebted to you for your dedication. We also thank our coordinator events and Assistant Dean of Students' Welfare and Chairman CWAC, the District Authority, the Deputy Commissioner, all officials, all government officials. Above all, we thank you, this august audience, participants who are attending today. Your presence has infused this event with a vibrant energy, and your engagement has made our efforts worthwhile. All senior citizens of Garo Hills, and the members of the NOCMA Council, a very special thank you to you. All the academia of colleges and schools, government officials, NGOs, religious bodies, and all of our most dear audience. A heartfelt thanks goes out to Hub News and Meghallian for promotion and publicity, as well as streaming the event live in different social media platforms for greater outreach and participation. As we bring this wonderful event to a close, let us carry forward the knowledge gained and the connections made. Let us continue to work together, inspire one another, and make a difference in our respective fields. a truly memorable occasion to commemorate the iconic and legendary Sri P.A. Sangma, a man for all seasons. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam, for taking time for expressing heartfelt gratitude to each and every individual who made this day a grand success. Thank you to all the helping hands that were lent to celebrate the birth anniversary of our beloved leader. Mangsawiyatan ko dakatinga, tumba ka pa sa kantinan, taani rangani ko tari doninga hane anganinga, na si Mang Katangon, ya onti sa light refreshment tari parang po, rai yang pabo ni jana patinga. According to the program, we have a national anthem at the end to commemorate this day. As a mark of respect to late P.A. Sangma for his service to man, there's no better way to end this session rather than unite together as we stand for our national anthem. Excerpts from the translated version of national anthem reads, "They pray for thy blessings and seek thy praise. The saving of all people awaits in thy hands. Thou dispenser of India's destiny, victory, victory, victory to thee."
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मागे गाहे तव जय गाथा जनगण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे।
Thank you, everyone. That was the end of today's program. Thank you, everyone. Sakantikon Matela, Dhanyawad.
quite as good as I should have. Maybe I didn't love you quite as often as I could have. Little thing